Hello students, now we are going to study about light. Light is a physical quantity which creates a sensation of sight in us. It is the light which makes the things visible to us. Whatever we see around us, it is all because of the light. When the light falls on the object, it gets reflected from the object and then it enters into our eyes, or the reflected light enters in our eyes and then we are able to see that object. So light is a something, or is a physical quantity which creates a sensation of sight in us. Now the controversy over the nature of light is one of the greatest controversy in the physics. Newton considered light to be made up of corpuscles or particles. So Newton proposed a theory that light is made up of particles, or it is considered to be made up of particles called as corpuscles. Then Maxwell put forth another theory about the light, and Maxwell considered light to be made up of an electromagnetic waves. Then Albert Einstein put forth the theory that light is made up of particles which are called as quantas, which had an energy which is equal to h mu, where h is the Planck's constant and mu is the frequency of the light. So light is considered to be particle according to the Albert Einstein, and he used this property of the light to explain the photoelectric effect. Then de Broglie proposed one more theory of the light, which says that the light has a dual nature, that light can exist in the form of an electromagnetic wave as well as light can exist in the form of a particles. Today we are going to see, or in the class 10 CBSE exam syllabus, we are going to study about the chapter light, and in this chapter we are going to study some phenomena like phenomena of reflection of a light and phenomena of refraction of light. And in order to study this phenomena, we have to consider that the light always travels in a straight line, or we have to accept the fact that the light have a property or exhibits a property which is called as a rectilinear propagation of a light, or light always travels in a straight line. We have already studied this in the past, that for example, if you take a pipe, and if you keep a candle in front of it, and if you see from this end, you will be able to see the light. It is because the light can travel in a straight line. But if you take a curved pipe, bent pipe, and if you keep a candle over here, and if you try to see from this end, you will be not able to see the candle because the light cannot bend around the corners, and this proves that the light exhibits a property called as a rectilinear propagation of a light. Okay, so light exhibits a property which is called as a rectilinear propagation of light, or light travels in a straight line. So whenever light travels in a straight line, it travels either in the form of a rays or in the form of a beam. So what is a ray? Ray is the path along which the light can travel. So this is single path of a light is called as a ray. And now if you have a multiple rays traveling together, and if they all are traveling parallel to each other, then this is called as a parallel beam of a light. Parallel beam of light. Sometimes light rays may not travel parallel. So for example, if from a source of a light, when a light gets emitted from a source, then it gets emitted in this form. So this type of beam of light is called as a divergent beam of a light. Divergent beam of light. And sometimes light rays coincide at one place, or they meet at one place, and this type of beam is called as a convergent beam. This is called as a convergent beam of light. So this is a convergent beam of light. Convergent beam of light can be seen when if you take a magnifying glass and if you keep in the sun, then we see a very bright spot on the paper or on a point where we focus, and that point is, or that is an example of a convergent beam. Divergent beam is an example. You can take an example of divergent beam. For example, if a light ray which is coming out of a torch is an example of a divergent beam. An example of convergent beam is a light focused using a magnifying lens on a paper. Sometimes you must have burned the paper with the help of a sunlight, and that is nothing but you have used, or you have converged all the light rays at one point and you made it to travel in the form of a convergent beam. Now we will see the phenomena of reflection of a light. Reflection of a light is defined as bouncing of a light from a surface. Whenever light falls on a surface like a polished surface or an opaque surface, then lights reflect from that surface, and that phenomena is called as a reflection of a light. So reflection of a light is bouncing of a light from an opaque surface or from the surfaces. Now we will see that there are two types of reflection. A reflection which takes place from a plane surface, and the reflection which takes place from an irregular surface. So this is an irregular surface and this is a regular surface. So if a parallel beam of light is incident on a regular surface, then it is observed that all the light rays which are reflected, they are also parallel. So if a parallel beam of light is incident on a regular surface or a plane surface, then all the light ray which gets reflected, they are also traveling parallel to each other, and this is an example of a regular reflection. And if a parallel beam of light is incident on a irregular surface, then it is observed that these light rays after reflection do not travel parallel. So this type of reflection is called as irregular reflection, or this is called as a diffuse reflection or irregular reflection. It is also called as diffused reflection, or it is also called as irregular reflection. Now you can see this both the types of reflection in our day-to-day life. Like you can see a regular reflection in case of a mirror. So a reflection that takes place on a plane mirror is a reflection, a regular reflection, and the reflection that takes place from all around us or outside our house or from a ground is an example of a diffuse reflection. And it is because of the diffuse reflection light can enter into the house during the daytime, even if you are not burning any light or a candle in the house. So it is because of the diffuse reflection is very useful, because diffuse reflection makes the things visible to us even if the sun is not directly shining on us. Thank you. Now we will see what is a law of reflection of a light. We have already seen that what is a reflection. Reflection is a bouncing of a light from any surface. So let us see what is a law of reflection of a light. So according to that, if you consider a single ray of a light, even if it is incident on if it is falling on a certain surface, then the ray which is falling on a certain point is called as an incident ray. The point at which the light is falling is called as point of incidence, and it gets reflected, and that reflected the ray which gets bounced from the surface is called as a reflected ray. And now the line which is drawn exactly perpendicular to the point of incidence is called as a normal, and the angle that is measured between the normal angle that is measured from a normal and the incident ray is called as angle of incidence, and the angle which is measured between the normal and the reflected ray is called as angle of reflection. So it is found with the help of various activities or practically verification. After practical verification, that angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection. So angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection. So it is always found with the help of activities or by the help of practicals that angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection, and this is the law of reflection of a light. There is one more thing which is also observed, that incident ray normal and the reflected ray, they always lie in the same plane. For example, these all the light rays, the diagram that I have drawn is in the one plane. So angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflected, angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, and incident ray normal and the reflected ray, they all lie in the same plane. Now there is one more thing that you need to remember is law of reflection is not only obeyed on the plane surface but also on the irregular surfaces. For every angle of incidence, angle of incidence is always equal to angle of reflection. For every angle, suppose if this is the angle of incidence, then this angle is always equal to this angle. Okay, so dear students, please remember, law of reflection is not only obeyed on the plane surface but only on every irregular surface.